Okay, we can now speak to Hassan Barari, who's a professor for international affairs at Qatar University, joining us from Amman. Mr. Barari, welcome back to Al Jazeera. Just give me your overall reading at what's taking place right now in the occupied West Bank and what seems to be settler provocations at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in occupied East Jerusalem.
Well, thank you very much. I think what we're seeing now in the West Bank is a continuation of the same policy, which is an Israeli official position to change the status quo, particularly in Jerusalem and the mosque. We know that the settlers, for instance, especially those illegal, in terms of Israeli jargon, but we know that all settlers are illegal in the West Bank and Jerusalem. East Jerusalem. So those people think that is a kind of a golden opportunity, that the region is in turmoil and the government is the extremists in the history and the short history of Israel, and they want to exploit this in order to change the status quo in the mosque. So they want to create new facts and present them as a fait accompli, so that the international community, the Palestinians in particular, will take this into account in days to come and even in years to come.
To what extent are these raids and these military incursions that take place in the occupied West Bank directly tied to the war on Gaza? I mean, overnight, there are reports of raids in Ramallah, Jenin, Nablus, Hebron, all facing military incursions.
Well, one more time, I think this is actually predated the war on Gaza. The Israeli push into the West Bank and East Jerusalem has been on since the inception of this government. But they're taking this opportunity that the whole attention is focused in Gaza, or now is focused in Iran, Hezbollah, and the likelihood of retaliation. So they take advantage of that and try to exploit it to the most by raiding as much as they can, by creating fact, by changing the status quo as much as they can.
What do you make of the seeming silence then by the international community on the events of the occupied West Bank? I mean, we've been reporting for many months now that the raids have increased quite drastically since October the 7th.
It's either the international community is either complicit or indifferent to what is happening in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Otherwise, we would have seen a kind of different stand. And we see that Israel is enjoying the same relationship with those influential countries here. I'm talking about the Western capitals, Paris, London, Berlin, and Washington. And they're not really paying any price for that. So they continue. I mean, they see that the international community is only talking their talk, but they never walk their talk. And they feel that they have a kind of impunity to do whatever they want to do in the West Bank.
And as for the Palestinian Authority, what do you make of their limited, some would say limited, reaction to what's going on?
Well, we know that the PA is totally controlled by a certain arrangement with the occupying forces in Palestine. They're giving a priority and they value the link with the Israeli authorities simply because of the running day-to-day business with them. They need the sellers, they need the tax. So in a way, we can say the PA is only, like the international community. They just, criticize and sometimes condemn, but they continue the same arrangement with the Israelis. So the Israelis don't feel that, they're under any pressure from the Palestinians' PA. And that's why they continue doing what they're doing.
Okay, Hassan Barari, thank you so much for speaking to us from Amman. We'll get an update now on what's happening on the ground and speak to our correspondent, Nida Ibrahim, who's joining us from Ramallah. Nida, first on the situation in Al-Tuwani specifically, why are the settlers planning on storming that village and what's happening right now?
Well, they started storming the Israeli settlers, the area of Tuwani, which is one village in an area called Masafer Yafa, to the south of the occupied West Bank. Palestinians say that they're using the fact that there's a religious holiday, religious commemoration, to attack and lay claim to more Palestinian land. We've seen it before. Settlers use the fact that they have a religious ceremony and they try and conduct those ceremonies in occupied territory. We've seen them raiding Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and also in Atuwan and Masafiriyata. This is not the first time. And Palestinians often say this is one tactic out of many that the Israeli settlers use to lay claim to Palestinian lands, to try and say that these lands are theirs, that they have the right to stay there. But remember, we have the indigenous Palestinian people who have been living in the occupied West Bank for decades, even before the creation of the State of Israel, who are seeing how the world stays silent to numerous attacks by Israeli settlers, not just against Palestinians, but also targeting their lands.
And that there were raids overnight in different areas of the occupied West Bank, including one in central Ramallah. Tell us about that and what happened there.
Yeah, this is where we are right now, very in the heart of Ramallah, in a neighborhood called Atira. There has been a house demolition. As you can see here, the municipality workers are trying to take and remove really the rubble from the demolition that took place in the early hours of the morning. The Israeli forces raided the house of Dr. Al-Barari and they bombed inside the house. It's a whole building, by the way, which means it's affecting all neighbors. We've seen the family trying to take the carpets away, trying to take what they could out of what used to be a house where Aysar and his mom lived in. Now, the Israeli forces say that Aysar and two other Palestinian nurses have carried out an attack near Ramallah, an area outside of Bir Zayt on the way to Naples. They say that he had killed not two Israelis, but he had killed two Palestinians who were moving in that road. It seems to have been a mistake. Again, no one knows. The family does not know what happened, but all they know is that this is part of the Israeli policy of demolishing the homes of Palestinians. They deem responsible for attacks that would target Israelis. This is not the only house demolition in Ramallah. We are also talking about another demolition that took place in the adjacent town of Al-Aqsa.
Okay, thank you, Nida Ibrahim. Thank you for reporting that from Ramallah.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.